our sense of the world, to make sense of the world. World peace through individual strength. Waking up the globe, physically, then mentally, and spiritually. Then physically again. Why? To feel better, objectively. How? Through Only No Nonsense podcast, brought to you through your Best Feeling Network. The only Best Feeling Network. I'm your host, Herbie. Good morning, it's 5:40 a.m. This is Pal Go On. Good morning. Good morning! It is Friday, July 23rd, 2021. Earth, Milky Way, chaos and order. Remember to always allow all of these words to go in one ear and out the other. Today is Freedom Friday, everybody. How are you feeling out there, wherever you are, wherever thou art? Today, we are discussing how nobody likes perfection. On Pal Go On, where we discuss relationships and feeling great in that body of yours. We'll be right back. Get that ass out of bed. It's fucking First Friday. Wherever you are, wherever thou art, maybe you are there in the future in a VOD, or maybe you are here right now, joining us here and now. I want to thank you and appreciate you for being here. You know, it's always a pleasure to have you here in the mornings. Thank you for the host, Herbie, like, it didn't make the sound, but we made the sound today. Today is Friday, Freedom Fridays on Pal Go On. On Pal Go On, where we stretch our self-awareness every weekday morning like a muscle. As you are asking yourself a few things. As we are always doing here on Pal Go On. Always asking ourselves a few things. As we understand here, as you know, everything is a relationship. Here in this human experience that we have here, everything is a relationship. As you know, even our self-awareness is a relationship that we have. So we're always asking ourselves questions, right? Which only reestablishes the fact that we have relationships with these things, right? The fact that we can ask questions about these things and not know the answer sometimes. Meaning that we're not always one-to-one with what's going on in our world. So sometimes, in fact, that is our entire mode of life, is it not? Are we not always shifting our awareness around onto different things? Sometimes when we want to pay attention to cars that we want to buy, we start to see that car around more in life, right? There's so many things in the world to pay attention to. Sounds all around you, 3D sounds. And if you rotate your body, a 3D array of things in the world. So it is important for us to stretch our self-awareness like a muscle. And check out what it is that we're even being aware of. Sometimes we can get away from our bodies and make our bodies feel not so great, and which is not so great for the way that we think and feel and do, because our bodies contain what we think and feel and do. So sometimes our bodies aren't feeling so great, and that affects what we think and feel and do. Is that not true? Is that not true? The ways that our body feels affects how we feel and think, and then what we do. Is that not true? Is that not true? The way we feel affects how we think and do. For example, here on Pal Go On, as we are here talking about always relationships with the self, and the world, and everything else. gonna make you feel good every morning as we stretch our self-awareness. Like, let's get you self-aware of your own body again. Feeling so good every day, better than your morning would feel without Pao Go On. Always, as we stretch our self-awareness like a muscle, and one of our practices that we do is pretend that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. Pretend that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out, and to leave your swallowing muscles alone as you do that. Again, say it with me, would you? Pretend that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out, as you leave your swallowing muscles alone. Again, would you say it with me? Pretend that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out, and to leave your swallowing muscles alone. To observe your sense of self as you do that. How does your sense of self feel? Again, would you, with me, I invite you to please say out loud with me, as your vocal muscles are also part of your body, so to become fully self-aware, to feel great in that body of yours, to give your entire existence a stretch. It might be necessary to involve your vocal muscles, so if you would, I invite you to say out loud with me this morning, whether you are kicking your stuff off the bed or you are brushing your teeth or something, I invite you to say with me, pretend that there's a candle in front of your lips that you are trying to not put out, leave the swallowing muscles alone. One more time, say it with me. Pretend there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. Why you leave the swallowing muscles alone? And how does your sense of self feel when you do that? Similarly, how does your sense of self feel if you were to literally imagine these words going in one ear and out the other? Today is Freedom Fridays. I want to welcome you to Freedom Fridays. And always on Pao Go On, we are always here to talk about feeling better than sex. That feeling. Yourself, your self-awareness, your superpower, your ability to feel yourself in the moment itself, and all of its 3D wonderfulness. Feeling better than sex, as in you don't need nobody else, it's just you. And it feels perfect because it's just you. Can't be taken away from you. Be used all the time, and in fact feels better every time. It doesn't leave you sleepy for 8 hours after. You don't gotta buy no drinks, no more than you just buy yourself a drink. Ooh, it is so sexy, feels so good. So constant, so rhythmic. So perfectly imperfect. Today on Freedom Fridays, they talk about perfection. Why people don't really like a perfect being. People don't like a perfect being, but you can live perfectly. How is that? Today on Freedom Friday on July 23rd, 2021. Friday 2021, July 23rd. We discuss how nobody likes perfection. Nobody likes a perfect being. But how people actually like imperfection without shame. And how imperfections actually allow freedom on Freedom Fridays. How do we feel about that? Imperfections actually allow us freedom. And as we'll see, as we'll discuss, freedom is perfection for human beings. It might not be possible, and people might not even like. It might not be possible, and people don't even like a perfect being. But humans are constantly imperfect, constantly in motion, and that in and of itself is perfect for a human being. For aren't you a mover? On Pao aren't you always a mover? Aren't you always breathing? And breathing is never still, right? It's never perfect. It's never a still image. So the perfection for human beings is motion. As breathing is human beings. Breathing is human beings. Human beings are breathing itself. We are never not breathing. You die every 5 minutes and that timer is reset with every breath, right? Nobody likes a perfect being, and it's not even possible to be a perfect being anyway. Because you're always in motion, so this idea of perfection we associate with non-motion, but we're always in motion, so maybe imperfection is perfection for human beings as we are always in motion. We're always breathing. An inhale will always want an exhale, and an exhale will always want an inhale. Isn't that kind of imperfect? But isn't that kind of perfect for us? We'll be right back. Let's think about that. We'll be right back. I'll go on. Short break. using our sense of the world to make sense of the world, achieving world peace through individual strength, waking the worlds up, physically, mentally, spiritually, and then physically again. Why? To feel better objectively. How? Through your only no nonsense podcast, silly. Brought to you through the Best Feeling Network. You already know what it is. My name is Herbie. Good morning, guys, and this is Pagawan. Have you been able to think about these imperfections and these perfections? How nobody likes perfection. What do they like if they don't like perfection? You know, I used to grow up, I grew up my entire life thinking that people would want perfection, right? Go around your entire life thinking that people want perfection. You're being raised by certain kinds of values, by certain kinds of examples in thy lives, that you just end up thinking that you need to be perfect for one reason or the other. That it is not right to just be yourself. At one point in life, did that not resonate with you? That it just felt not right to be yourself, so you had to change for some reason. Did that not resonate with you? Did you ever feel that? That maybe it was unsafe to be yourself. Maybe you would lose the people that you cared about. Maybe you would not be able to attain the love that you thought you deserved. Maybe you thought that you would lose the attention that you needed, that you wanted. Maybe you just thought that you would have more friends. Maybe you just thought that you would be liked by the people you liked if you could just be more perfect doing something, at doing any particular thing. If I was just perfect the way I looked, if I was just perfect the way that I stood, if I was just perfect in the way that I got good grades, if I was just perfect in what job that I had, in the money that I could bring in the way that I could speak, in the way that I could make people laugh, in the way that I could make this diorama, in the way that I could get my hair. If I could just be perfect, maybe I could keep all the friends, that I could have people like me in the way that I would want to be liked, right? Didn't we see perfection as something necessary at some point, especially in our generation, 2021? If you are one of those people who saw the advent of the internet or the early parts of the internet, you might have been led to believe that it was necessary to be perfect. Maybe the images on the screen, images in society, no real grounding of the idea of what you were seeing was not actually real. So this idea of perfect only became more and more exaggerated, that it was something attainable. How long in our lives did we think that people would like us if we would just be perfect? If we could just be perfect. But as an inhale always begets an exhale, isn't that imperfection itself? But isn't it perfection for a human being? Isn't there an imperfection that is created by an exhale that needs an inhale? Or an inhale needs an exhale, right? An inhale needs an exhale. An exhale needs an inhale, right? Is that not true? One more time. And if you would you say it with me? An exhale needs an inhale. Say it with me. An inhale needs an exhale. Is that not true? Say it with me. An exhale needs an inhale. An inhale needs an exhale. One more time, say it with me. An exhale needs an inhale. An inhale needs an exhale. One more time, just because we like messing with you. An exhale needs an inhale. And say it with me. An inhale needs an exhale. Is that not true? How does that resonate with you? Is that not true? Does an exhale not need an inhale? And does an inhale not need an exhale? But isn't that imperfection? And what do we mean imperfection, right? As in, an exhale is not an inhale, but always needs an inhale, right? Isn't there something kind of yin-yang about that? Something kind of imperfect, but always perfect about that? Something kind of like forever balancing about that, right? An exhale needs an inhale, and an inhale needs an exhale. As in, every exhale is a death, right? As in, you die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with every breath, with every inhale, right? As in, does your body even know that there will be an inhale when it's exhaling? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Your body doesn't necessarily know that. But as you are waking up this morning, kicking off the things off the bed, wherever you are, wherever thou art, is it not true that that imperfection between the exhale and the inhale kind of makes something kind of perfect in the end anyway, right? As we are pretending that there is a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. And you want to leave your swallowing muscles alone. Remember, don't even think about inhaling. Don't even think about exhaling. Your body already does that, baby. Your body's already designed to do that, baby. Chaos and order. Your body is designed to do that. Your body's already designed to do that. As in, your body already has all these complex springs and mechanisms that so long as you are placing the weight of the body down the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all the times. And even if you're not, if you for some reason went unconscious because you were losing blood because you were trying to put all the weight on the back of the spine and into the tailbone where you are not supposed to place weight. Let's say you passed out because of that. Your body, because of its natural design, will recoil and go into its normal form, but more closer to the front, placing all the weight into the front. Just by nature of its design, because of your guts all in the front, where the muscles would pull when you were unconscious would be towards the front, which would grant you another breath anyway, buddy. By the time you go unconscious, you would be granted another breath anyway, buddy. So long as that there is no mechanical blockage or anything like that, right? Big ass tonsils or some kind of illness that is physically blocking that structure. Our bodies are designed to go back to the place where they feel fine, where they can, where they believe themselves to feel fine. Because your body is so strong, right? Here on Pagawan, we know that the body is so strong. As you know, your body will place weight wherever it wants to place weight. And so becoming aware of different parts of our body is a fantastic way to get a good stretch, because your body needs to feel where it is to stretch itself against itself. So it needs to feel things in its proper areas, and your body's so smart that it will feel your body in whatever way it thinks it's designed. So if it thinks it's designed in a way that is not copacetic and not harmonious with its bone structure, well, it will go ahead and do that regardless. Your body will complain, your guts will complain, but it will try to place its weight into the tailbone if you think that's where you're supposed to place weight. But as we know, you're supposed to place weight into the front of the spine, not into the back spiny portion of the spine. But imagine your sense of self. Try it for yourself. See for yourself how it feels to place the weight of the body down the front of the spine into those rainbow arches. Versus placing the weight into those back into the tailbone. does your body feel? How does it agree with you? How does it agree with you when you do that? You're on the only no nonsense podcast. Here on the only no nonsense podcast, we make you feel good from the inside out. So we invite you to try, as this is the only podcast in 3E. Only podcast in 3E. Making you feel good from the inside out. So try it for yourself. Always these words in one ear and out the other, and see how your sense of self feels. It's your sense of self, as in how your left arm feels different from your right arm sometimes. How your back right heel feels different than your back left heel, but they are both still part of you. You could still feel them simultaneously, yet they're such distinct parts of your body, such different parts of your bodies. Right? Making you feel good from the inside out, using your sense of self as in how does your body feel when it gets off the right side of the bed versus the wrong side of the bed, what it is that you are talking about there. What is it? What is it that you were talking about there? Where is that feeling housed? Is that in your skin? Or it's giving you more sense of texture and temperature of things you were touching? When you say that you got off the right side of the bed versus the wrong side of the bed, is that where you are tasting? Is that where you are smelling? Where is that feeling happening that you were talking about the right side of the bed versus the wrong side of the bed? Is that in your hearing? Actually, maybe closer there, right? But aren't those all grounded? Aren't we always talking about kinesthetic experience, our body's sense of self, right? Are we always talking about that? Our body's kind of sense of self, its kind of relationship with itself. Kind of like when you get a stomach ache, you can feel your stomach, but then when it's not there, you don't feel a stomach ache at all. When you don't feel a stomach ache, you don't feel any kind of awareness of that stomach. But when you do have a stomach ache, you can totally feel that stomach, right? Your sense of self always shifting. It's a relationship with yourself kind of thing, right? How your left heel feels different than your back left shoulder, but they still feel like you. But sometimes it's harder to feel all of that, right? Harder to feel all of that organization within yourself. Sometimes it's harder to feel that your weight of the body wants to be delivered to the front of the spine. Sometimes it's harder to feel the fronts of your shins. You're looking on the screen. Are you feeling the front of your shins? Sometimes it's harder to feel the front of your shins. It's hard to get that nice breath that's gifted to you from your lower back when you're feeling the front of your shins. Sometimes it's harder to feel that. Sometimes it's harder to feel that you do not sit on your legs. Sometimes your sense of self is very blurry, kind of like taking your glasses off if you need glasses, or just waking up early in the morning. You need to scrub your eyeballs. You need to rub your eyeballs, get that muta out, those eye boogers. Those eye boogers. Sometimes it's hard to feel muscles that are activated. When you pretend with me that there is a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. Sometimes it's hard to feel that you want to leave your swallowing muscles alone, as your sense of self is always shifting. We want to feel free on that body, right? We want to feel free in that body on Freedom Fridays, right? We want to feel so free. And didn't we think that people liked perfection so much of our lives? Doesn't that make you not feel free? Doesn't that antagonize your freedom? Doesn't that chain down your freedom, thinking that people want perfection, first of all? As we know, we shouldn't be living for how people feel about us anyway, but we wanted to. And at the end of the day, there's value in people liking you, and people appreciating you, people wanting you around. There's value in that. There's value in that. So what was so wrong about us trying to find how to be perfect so that we can always be accepted? What was so wrong about us wanting to find the formula of how to stay perfect so people always like us. Because breathing isn't perfect. In fact, it thrives on imperfection. It is imperfection itself. The movement that imperfection creates is the perfection. Movement itself is perfection, and that's created by imperfection. This state of perfection that we try to attain. All wrong. All wrong. All wrong. No wonder we had such a hard time in life. Is all wrong. The design that we were playing, the game that we thought we were playing was all wrong. Perfection in a still state? Nobody likes that. Why? Because it's not reflective of reality. We are not still beings. We can never be perfect still. We can never be perfect in stillness. There's no such thing for us because breathing is necessary and is integral part of our experience, and breathing itself requires imperfection. It is not still. Our idea of perfection in humanity these days is stillness. But is it not true that our perfection is in motion? As in breathing, as in doesn't an exhale always beget an inhale in a perfect life? And doesn't an inhale always beget an exhale in a perfect life? Can you conceive a life without that imbalance? That imbalance that we continuously balance, right? There's an imbalance that an inhale always wants to be an exhale, and an exhale always wants to be an inhale eventually. Isn't that kind of a forever imbalance, like a yin-yang? And isn't that imbalance corrected through motion, right? The travel from inhale to exhale, that travel from exhale to inhale. And isn't that a perfect life? Isn't that perfection itself, that motion? Isn't life experienced through breaths? Every exhale is a wish, as we know, as your body doesn't know if it's going to get an inhale. It doesn't know that for sure. You don't know that for sure. That's like an act of faith. But we know that constant death of a life, right? Every exhale is a death, right? Of a life. Right? And as each one of those dies, isn't it an act of faith? And isn't that what creates this constant motion of life? As every breath is an idea, right? You focus on something, you say a sentence, you breathe, you observe something, exhale, 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 talk about that thing, you let go of an idea, it dies, you have a new idea, awareness on new thing, a new breath, right? Every breath is a life cycle. Every breath, every exhale is a death. Your body doesn't know if it's going to get an inhale necessarily. But isn't that transfer of energy, that constant flux from exhale to inhale, isn't that what we consider a perfect motion for human beings? Isn't that just perfect for us? Isn't the state of being perfect impossible for human beings? So isn't motion itself created by imperfection, perfection itself for human beings? Isn't that so funny? Isn't the imbalance, like the imperfection, created by stuff like exhale and inhale? Isn't that motion perfect for human beings? Isn't motion perfect for human beings? And isn't motion created by an imperfection, an imbalance? Something that is here that wants to be there. A desire, an imperfection. Something that is here that wants to be there. Isn't that what creates motion? And isn't motion perfect for human beings? Forever failing forward, forever being allowed to fail, the freedom to fail. Isn't that motion perfect for human beings? Pretend that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out, and leave your swallowing muscles alone. Isn't motion created through imperfection perfect for human beings? We'll be right back. using our sense of the world to make sense of the world. World peace through individual strength, waking you up, waking the globe up, waking the worlds up physically, mentally, spiritually, then physically again. Why? To feel better, objectively. How? Through your only no nonsense podcast brought to you through your best feeling network. I'm your host Herbie, and this is Power One. Have you been able to pretend that there is a candle in front of the lips you're trying to not put out? And have you been able to leave the swallowing muscles alone? Again, have you been able to pretend that there is a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out? And to remember to leave the swallowing muscles alone. Again, would you please with me I invite you to join me in pretending that there is a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. And to leave your swallowing muscles alone. Again, one more time, I want to invite you in joining me in pretending that there is a candle in front of thy lips you're trying to not put out. And that you want to leave your swallowing muscles alone. Don't even think about breathing. No breathing in and out. Just imagine the candle in front of the lips. That's all you need to do. Just imagine the candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. Just feel the face and just feel how that candle would feel the face, and you're trying to not put out that candle, and we'll try to flicker it. And leave your swallowing muscles alone as you do so. Just allow your body and your sense of self to do its thing. Just continue to imagine that there is a candle, a lit candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. To leave your swallowing muscles alone. If that prompts you to get up and move, go ahead and allow your body to do that too. That's okay. But as you do, please maintain with me that there is a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. To leave your swallowing muscles alone. Or maybe it makes you want to do nothing, it makes you want to just hang out, and that's okay too. If you would with me, please. Pretend that there is a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. And I invite you to join me in leaving the swallow muscles alone. Isn't there sort of a perfection that is created for human beings? In imperfection. As in, don't we want to stand upright? Don't we want to be balanced in life to do the things that we want to do? And just like a bike needs to constantly correct for its imbalance that gravity is constantly pulling itself down towards, right? It needs to constantly be corrected of its imbalance to stay up. Maybe there's something about us needing to stay balanced, be free to do what we want by focusing on balancing our imperfections. Isn't there something perfect for human beings? An imperfection. As in the inhale eventually going to an exhale, and the exhale eventually begetting an inhale again. Isn't there kind of an imperfect relationship between those two, that they could never completely just be with one another? But doesn't that imperfect relationship create a perfect experience for us, human beings? Here on Pago On, always putting you at the center, the human being at the center of the conversation, right? As we are the translators of the universe, as we are allowing these words to go in one ear and out the other, and allowing ourselves to observe our sense of self as that happens, as we are the center of the conversation, right? Even right now, I invite you to allow these words to go in one ear and out the other and merge into the rest of the world, the symphony that is your life, wherever you are, wherever thou art, whether you are in the car, whenever you are as well. Maybe you're 3,000 years in the future digging us up in a time capsule, wherever you are. We invite you to maintain your awareness in that godlike body of yours, that amazing body of yours, that superhuman-like body of yours, the superpower to place its awareness on any part of its body and affect its own experience through it. Isn't that insane? As in, if you were pretending with me that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out, and to leave your swallowing muscles alone, can anyone take that away from you? Isn't that your superpower? Again, I invite you to join me pretending that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. To leave your swallowing muscles alone as well. And to just observe how your sense of self feels as you do that. Isn't that your superpower, your ability to just shift your awareness, your self-awareness, like a muscle, and affect your entire body's experience, your own experience through such ways? No one can take that away from you. And when you're done using it, what do you mean? You can never be done using it. Your sense of awareness is always there for you, baby. But we can cultivate even better. We can cultivate it to be even a stronger relationship with this sense of self. As we are able to stretch our self-awareness, is that not true? Are we not able to feel our left hand in isolation from our body, but then also, later on, feel it integrated as one part of the entire whole again? Isn't that true? Aren't we able to feel our left hand, for example, if we are so lucky to have one? Are we able to feel our left hand in isolation, just by itself, if we want to, in our awareness? But then also, become aware of our hand as part of our entire body again. One part of the whole again. Is that not possible? Are we able to shift our self-awareness, whoop, like a muscle, like flubber or something? Are we able to shift our awareness like that? Aren't we able to shift our awareness like that, and doesn't it feel so good? So when we shift our awareness to more truths about our body, isn't it true that this imperfect relationship between the inhale and the exhale kind of reflects a balance? Does it not? This imperfect relationship between our exhale and inhale it's an imperfect relationship, because an inhale can never be an exhale, yet it always wants to be, right? An inhale will always one day be an exhale, and an exhale will always one day be an inhale. Why do we know that? Because of our design. Just the way that our body contracts with itself, our body's ability to hold position for one time, for too long at a time. These exhales necessarily beget an inhale. Kind of an imperfect relationship because they always want each other, right? They're always desiring each other, like a pole that spins forever. A north and south that spins forever, right? A yin and yang that spins forever, right? Inhaling and an exhaling. Imperfect by nature, always wanting one another but can never be one another. This inhale and exhale, right? This imperfect relationship, yet doesn't it create a perfect symbiotic experience for us as we live our lives through breaths, are able to let go of one idea through a breath, let go of one moment through a breath? Aren't all of our experiences parsed through breaths? Don't we speak sentences in breaths? When we speak words, does our attention not coalesce onto one idea? Does it not funnel down into one idea? Do our ideas not triangulate onto one idea? Does our attention of our ideas not align towards one idea to say one word? Does our attention and our awareness of our ideas not agree and harmonize for a moment to say one word, as opposed to trying to speak in tongues and try to say like 5 words? Does our attention not go onto one idea in order to say words in like a straight line like that? Right? Does our attention to our breathing not regulate and all agree on one intention for a little while to say what's on our mind? Isn't our whole experience the way that we organize the world? Don't we parse it through breathing? Don't we put it through this machine of breathing? And isn't breathing imperfect in nature? Doesn't it require the imperfection of an exhale wanting an inhale? Isn't that motion of balance created necessarily because the inhale wants to be an exhale but will never be an exhale, and an exhale wants to be an inhale and will never be an inhale? Now the south will always want to try to spin towards the north, and the north will always try to spin towards the south. The yin will always try to spin towards the yang, and the yang will always try to spin towards the yang. Yin will never be in that imperfect placement of one another, right? Because their placements from one another are imperfect in that they always want one another, as in the exhale is always trying to be in that inhale in your body, right? As in, after a while, it will always, the more you exhale, the more your body will want the inhale, right? And the more you inhale, the more your body will eventually have to exhale. There's that imperfect nature of it. They will always want having more of one will always rubber band stronger in the other direction, right? You cannot have both of them. You cannot have both of them in maximum capacity forever. You cannot have a full inhale and a full exhale at the same time. So there's something imperfect, right? They can never both be in full activation at the same time. So isn't that imperfection what creates this movement, which creates this balance, which is relatable to a bike, right? We relate the motion of a bike to its ability to stay upright without some kind of outside force, like a kickstand. But its ability to stay upright, which means its ability to be free, to move wherever it wants to go. Its ability to be free in the world and go wherever it wants to go and fly like an eagle. Its ability to be free heavily relies on its ability to stay upright, its ability to be in balance, its ability to be in motion. A bike, right? Human beings, our ability to be free in life, to think freely, to feel freely, to do freely, relies on our ability to move, our abilities for motion, our abilities to balance between the exhale and the inhale, our abilities to balance that constant imperfect relationship. Just like a bike's constant imperfect relationship with gravity as a bike is always wanting to go and fall towards the side or something like that against gravity, but we are constantly counteracting that with motion to keep the bike up, so the bike can travel and do all the crazy things that bikes can travel to and do. In the same way, human beings, this imperfect relationship that creates breathing, is perfect after all. So nobody likes a perfect person. Why? No one likes a perfect being because it's not real. It's not relatable. What are they going to learn from that? How to remain a perfect being? How to remain upright as a bike? What can you learn from a bike that just remains upright, not in motion? It's not a real bike. You can't actually learn anything from it. You can't actually learn anything from it. What do people like? Not a perfect being, but maybe you can live perfectly. That's what people like, maybe. Run that back, bam. We spent so much of our lives thinking that we could be perfect. What if we're pretending that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out? You're leaving your swallowing muscles alone. What are we here to do? Feel great in that body. Solve problems. Your body not feeling great might be a problem that we need to solve. But is there any sort of state of perfection? I think not. We think not. We think not. So isn't it easier to swing with the punches? Should we just assume that imperfections are the perfections? Imperfections are the perfections. Why is that? Well, aren't you looking at the imperfections to balance against those imperfections to gain yourself some more balance? So you could be free and fly, like the way a bike would when it's balanced. Shouldn't we look at our imperfections and say no to these imperfections, but love them? For aren't they helping us achieve balance? How else would you know what balance was if you were not able to feel the imbalance? And what is balance important for? Freedom. Is the important part staying upright itself, or is the staying upright and balance the prerequisite to do other things? Do we value a bike because it can stand up? If it's perfectly able to stand up? Or do we value a bike because of what it can do once it does get perfectly stood up? Once it is able to balance? And doesn't a bike still need to be able to experience imbalance to be useful? To be able to turn, to be able to experience freedom? Doesn't a bike need to experience imperfection to be able to do all the things that we want a bike to do? It needs to be able to imbalance. It needs to have the freedom to imbalance. Why would you think that people would like people in the first place? Of course, their company, but also to learn from them. Also to learn from them. So what is there to learn from someone who's not experiencing the same kind of life that everyone else is? By humans, we're naturally imbalancing ourselves. We need to be imbalancing ourselves. We need to be imperfect in ourselves, in our nature. We need to acknowledge our own imperfections to breathe properly. As in, we need to acknowledge how much our body needs in exhale and how much our body needs in inhale. Aren't those imperfections? To need something, isn't that an imperfection? To need something? If you're inhaling, you need to exhale. And if you exhale, you need to inhale. Isn't that true? And isn't that an imperfection? Because that's a need, right? So aren't we all living imperfections? So isn't it off-putting to try to be perfect? To try to care about being perfect? To even care about being perfect? Shouldn't that be tossed out the window immediately? Because we are living imperfections. In fact, to feel a perfect breath, we need to completely integrate what is imperfect about ourselves. We need to completely acknowledge what is imperfect about ourselves without shame. But just the truth without hate, as we know is love, right? As we know what love is. On Pal Go On, love is the truth without hatred, right? So as we are trying to become aware of ourselves, in all honesty, in all earnestness, in all truthfulness, without hate, doesn't that include how much we need to exhale and how much we need to inhale? And aren't those imperfections about ourselves? So aren't we by nature just these imperfect beings? Aren't we living embodiments of imperfections itself? Our ability to feel perfect, our idea of feeling perfect is imperfection itself to create a breath. Isn't that crazy? Our idea of feeling perfect, these humans, these silly humans, our idea of being perfect is imperfection. So isn't it off-putting to try to strive for the state of being perfect? Because isn't perfection, like a bike for human beings, isn't it imperfection? Isn't it imbalance? The acknowledgement of the imbalance and the motion through it. Are we living embodiments of this imperfection stuff? So isn't it off-putting to even try to live for this idea of being perfect? We can immediately toss that out the window. You say something crappy about me, immediately. You should be able to say, yeah, obviously. Most likely. If you thought so, probably. You say something bad about me, oh, you stink. Yeah, probably. At some point, probably. Oh, you're short. Yeah, probably. To somebody. You know, we are living embodiments of imperfection. So to hide away from imperfection, no wonder that's so unlikable. It's so counter-design. It's like you're not even living in the same world that we are. But we are living all in the same world. Because we're all trying to balance. And imperfections make us. We're living embodiments of imperfection. Isn't there something charming? Isn't there something likable about somebody who can always admit their imperfections? Why is that? Because aren't you always closer to the truth? Aren't you always closer to the truth to see imperfections in yourself? Because aren't we living embodiments of imperfection? Aren't you always closer to the truth if you laugh and admit imperfections about yourself? Aren't you always closer to the truth if you're talking smack about yourself? Aren't you always closer to the truth, right? As we are living embodiments of imperfection. That's how we make our way to feeling perfect, is these imperfections, acknowledging our breaths even. Down to our breaths even. And if it's down to our breaths, what else is there? Say it with me. We are living embodiments of imperfection. Say it with me. We are living embodiments of imperfection. Say it with me. We are living embodiments of imperfection. And what does that mean? As in, as you're pretending that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. You're leaving your swallowing muscles alone. Remember, don't think about breathing. Don't think about inhaling or exhaling. They do that on their own. Remember, they want each other. It's like yin and yang. They want each other anyway. It's going to happen anyway. Don't worry about it. Just pretend that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. And join me. Leaving your swallowing muscles alone. Again. Pretend that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. To leave your swallowing muscles alone. Leave those swallowing muscles alone. As you're pretending there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. Perfections, imperfections, imperfections, imperfections. Aren't we living embodiments of imperfection? As in, doesn't an inhale always want an exhale? And doesn't an exhale always want an inhale? Don't they always need each other? So isn't that a need? And isn't a need an imperfection? But we're driven by that constant balance, right? That balance that's struck between inhale and exhale, that's where we live. That's where we thrive. That balance, and our relationship with that balance. What does it take for us to balance that? To breathe calmly, satisfyingly, like pretending that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. And to leave your swallowing muscles alone. Don't we live in that constant imbalance as the exhales need the inhales, but doesn't it feel so good? Doesn't it feel so free, like a bike constantly balancing itself? As you breathe properly and as you allow every exhale, by pretending there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out, and to leave your swallowing muscle alone as you allow that exhale to happen. Isn't that freedom created because of what those breaths allow you to do? Aren't we the living embodiment of this imbalance? But isn't that a good thing? Isn't that a good thing? Aren't we the living embodiments of this imbalance, this imperfection? And isn't that a good thing? Isn't that why we went our whole lives thinking that, like, hey, how come those guys like have imperfection? Those guys have flaws, but they have all these friends. How is that why we went our whole lives going through that? Because isn't it nice to be in a state where you are perfect? But isn't it more perfect to envision life as being constantly imperfect? As in, we're constantly dealing with imperfection. As in, we're constantly having to inhale after every exhale. The imperfect nature of an exhale, how it always wants an inhale, and how your inhale will always need an exhale. That imperfect nature, isn't that always happening? And so aren't we attracted to people who integrate that idea and live in that idea? So from head to toe, from stars to body, from mountain to seas, aren't we looking at each other to learn? Learn how to deal with the exhale to the inhale. Learn how to deal with all those imperfections, with the imperfect nature of life, with the imperfect nature of the inhale and the exhale. Trying to make every exhale feel better. And trying to make every inhale feel better. Trying to make every exhale create a great inhale. Isn't that what we're looking for? How to make that happen over and over. Isn't that a constant motion, a constant battle with problems? Overcoming suffering, overcoming a bad exhale to get a better inhale. We'll see you guys on Monday on Pagawan. One more time, I want to invite you to join me in pretending that there is, in fact, a candle in front of the lips you're trying to not put out. You want to leave your swallowing muscles alone. Make you feel so good. One more time from the inside out. Pretend that there's a candle in front of the lips that you're trying to not put out. And to leave your swallowing muscles alone. Making you feel so good from the inside out. Your only no-nonsense podcast brought to you through the only best feeling network. I'm your host, Herbie. Hope you have a fantastic day, weekend, life. And Pagwan. See you.